Now, it's time for the Neighborhood Connection, sponsored by The Wall.
Welcome back to Around the House Northwest. Each and every week, we answer your questions. We like to call it our Neighborhood Connection. This week, we got a great question on how to install a smart light switch and how you can prepare for an emergency. Let's dive into this smart light switch here. You know, this is just your traditional dimmer. You can run it this way, turn it off and on, but you can't control it with anything else but pushing that switch. So let's show you what we're gonna do. First, always unplug this thing, get it all disconnected, turn the breaker off. So let's do that. Let me turn the power off to this thing right now. And now we're gonna test it to make sure that we've got that. So you always wanna make sure that you're not hitting the wrong one. So we're gonna pull this out first and get this cover out of the way. Today we're gonna be installing the Lutron Clara. It's their new smart light switch. And we're gonna show you how to do that right now. So once we get into this, we're gonna pull this out of here and I'm gonna test these to make sure that we've got the power all the way off. This comes out really easy. And this is something that it's a very easy DIY project, but most importantly, you gotta follow the directions. And when in doubt, hire that electrician to come do it. They don't charge you that much to come out and do this if this is over your head. But I'm gonna show you here what we can do. Now, smart light switches are really cool. I've got them set up in my house. I've got about 5 or 6 different brands inside my house to do it. But the cool thing with this is that I can control just about anything in my house from anywhere in the country. Let's get out my handy tester here and make sure that we don't have anything going here. All right, we are completely off. There is nothing on there. So now we're gonna pay attention to kind of how this is wired up. We've got the neutral wire, which is the white one. We've got our ground, which is the bare copper. And then we've got the hot wire that's coming in and of course coming out, going up to the light fixture itself. So really pay attention. One of the things that I do when I'm doing this, if I get concerned, I grab my phone, take a picture, and you can see how it's wired up just in case you get lost in this process. Let me get this. We're gonna loosen up these settings right here, get these screws loose, and remove the old switch. Now these are looped on the side, which is really cool how this works. I don't use the push stab connectors in the back because guess what, those can come loose. And when you have a loose wire, that can always cause a fire or an electrical problem. So we're gonna take all these loose here and get rid of this switch. It's loose there. All right, this we're getting out of the way. Now here's the important part on these switches. There's a lot more wires in the back of these smart switches, you can see here. This is not your traditional switch. So when we come in here, we've got our neutral wire, our ground wire. Now this blue one here, that's if we've got a multiple pole switch. For instance, if we've got a 2-way, what we have here, if we go a 3-way or even a 4-way switch, this is what this is meant for. We're not using this today. So the first thing we're gonna do is pull out the instructions to follow, but they even supply us with the little connectors here. So I'm gonna open up this package. And before I forget, I'm gonna put that little blue connector on the bottom of that so we don't have to worry about this. This is the one we're not gonna use. So I'm just gonna cap that off here. I'll fold that over and just hide that right there so we've got a good connection and that doesn't come off inside the box. Twist this here. Get the cap on there. That way we've got the ground nice and secured. Get these nice and tight. That way it doesn't come off. So our neutral wire is buried back in the back of the box. We're gonna grab this. Now, traditionally with a regular light switch, you don't have to worry about that neutral wire, but because this is a smart light switch, this controls this like any other appliance. So you have to have that neutral to run it. So that's where you have to make sure and have this in the box. Some older homes don't have that neutral in the box, and that can be a problem. So let me get this slid into this. And then that way we can have that connected. Okay, that is nice and tight and not going anywhere. I'm gonna fold that into the back of the box so we don't have to mess with it. So now we have our 2 wires here. So this one's coming in here that goes over to the light switch. And this is the one that's the power coming in. So I'm gonna straighten these out. When in doubt, strip these back. If these get any kind of a kink in them, these are nice and good new wires. Sometimes these older wires are a little more brittle. Sometimes it's better off and just cut it off there. So the black wire is the hot wire here, so we're gonna connect those two with another one of these wire nuts. Now the challenge when we get this all put together is going to be to slide this all back in the box, because these bigger switches take up a little bit more room, and so that can be another issue you run into with these, is that you don't have enough room for all these wires. But I think we're going to be okay on this box. Again, that's another challenge you can run into, and you might have to swap out for a deeper box. All right. So let's start folding these back in here. I want to get these back in the box as far as I can and really get those pushed in there. And then I always look for the Lutron logo so I don't get this upside down, otherwise it's going to be really confusing. And see, that's going to fit back in the box really nicely. So then we're going to put the two screws here in. Personally, I like the little hex head on these, the square drive, because you can usually work on these pretty good. But sometimes, depending on the screws, they are so small, and that's one of the little things you have to be careful with these. So on this one, I'm actually going to use the Phillips because they just don't fit sometimes in the way the screws are manufactured. So we're going to go back to a Phillips on this one. And we'll power this thing up, hit the breaker on this, and see if we're working good. All right. That is nice and tight. Let's turn some power on, see what happens. There we go. This bulb is not a great dimming bulb, so this is one of those things where I want to get a different bulb for it. It is one of those things that's going to give us an issue. So again, go onto the Lutron website, find the right bulb for it. This was designed for an old, real incandescent type thing. So again, put another bulb in it and you're good to go. This one's working great. A better bulb will dim more, so take a look at the bulb selection out there, and that's gonna get you a smart light switch that you can turn off anywhere in the house, and you can program it so it turns off automatically or on every morning, however you want it to work.